afternoon to MC. Hope you're all okay and you've had a lovely Easter break. It's nice to have everybody online and doing all their online learning as well today. It's really good to see. So this week I'm going to be doing a little bit of reading with you every afternoon. I've got 5 different reading books that I'm going to read each day. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Now what I'd like you to do is try and find a text at home that you've never read before. So whether that's someone else reading it to you or you're going to read it to yourself, I just want it to be a brand new text for you. For this, as young readers, you're going to be developing your preferences for reading. So you might not like the same books as people at home. Your own reading preference is unique to you. Okay, so it doesn't matter if you don't like the same books as somebody else. Now, one of the books I've chosen, the first book for today, is Tyrannosaurus Drip, and it's by Julia Donaldson. And what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to listen to me reading the story today, and then at the end I'll explain what I'd like you to do. Okay? In a swamp beside a river, where the land was thick with veg, lived a herd of duck-billed dinosaurs who roamed the water's edge. They hooted up with rivers, and they hooted up with reeds, and they hooted up with bellyfuls of juicy water seeds. There they all are. Now across the rushy river, on a hill the other side, lived a mean Tyrannosaurus with his grim and grisly bride. And they shouted up with hunting, and they shouted up with war, and they shouted up with bellyfuls of duck-billed dinosaur. But the 2 Tyrannosauruses, so gristly, mean and grim, couldn't catch the duck-billed dinosaurs because they couldn't swim. And they muttered down with water, and they muttered down with wet, and they muttered what a shame that bridges aren't invented yet. So there they are, the Tyrannosaurus is the one to get across to this side to get the duck-billed dinosaur. Now a little Compsognathus, but for short we'll call her Comp, found a duck-bill egg and stole it from a nest beside the swamp. And she swam with it and ran with it and murmured, "Clever me, and won't the baby Comps be thrilled with duck-bill egg for tea?" She dropped the egg in terror and went running for her life from the mean Tyrannosaurus and his grim and grisly wife. And the duck-bill egg went rolling, and at last it came to rest in all unlikely places, the Tyrannosaurus nest. Now the mother T had great big jaws and great enormous legs, but her brain was rather little, and she couldn't count her eggs. But she sang, "Hatch out, my terrors, with your scaly little tails, and your spiky little toothies, and your scary little nails." So there's the Tyrannosaurus's eggs. She hasn't realised that another one's in there. Out hatched babies 1 and 2, as perfect as could be. But Mother T was horrified by baby number 3. And she grumbled, "He looks weedy." And she grumbled, "He looks weak." And she grumbled, "What long arms. And look, his mouth is like a beak." "He just needs feeding up," said Dad, and gave the babes some meat. The first 2 gulped and guzzled, but the third refused to eat. And he said, "I'm really sorry." And he said, "I simply can't." And he said, "This meat looks horrible. I'd rather eat a plant." "A plant?" yelled Mum in horror, and Dad said, "Get a grip." His sisters found a name for him, Tyrannosaurus Drip. And they shouted up with hunting, and they shouted up with war, and they shouted up with bellyfuls of duck-billed dinosaur. Poor Tyrannosaurus Drip tried hard to sing along, but the others yelled, "You silly Drip, you've got the words all wrong." For he hooted down with hunting, and he hooted down with war, and he hooted down with bellyfuls of duck-billed dinosaur. Drip's sisters soon grew big enough to hunt with Dad and Mum, and they turned on Drip and told him, "You're not fierce enough to come." And he cried, "They've gone without me." And he cried, "A lucky day." And he cried, "That doesn't feel like home. I'm going to run away." Oh, look at him, he's all sad. So he ran off to the river, where he saw a lovely sight. A herd of duck-billed dinosaurs, all hooting with delight. And they hooted up with rivers, and they hooted up with reeds, and they hooted up with bellyfuls of juicy water weeds. As he stood there on the bank, a sudden urge told him how. and he jumped into the water and discovered he could swim. And the duckbills came to greet him by the rushy river's edge, and they hooted, "Nice to see you," and they hooted, "Have some veg." He looks very happy now. And Drip, who was delighted that they hadn't run away, ate bellyfuls of water weeds and played with them all day. Then he gazed into the river and he asked them, "Who, oh who, is that creature in the water?" And they yelled and said, "It's you." You see him there looking into his reflection. That night the lightning crackled and a storm blew down a tree, and it fell across the river, and the tees cried, "Yippee!" And they shouted up with hunting, and they shouted up with war, and they shouted up with bellyfuls of duck-bill dinosaurs. You can see they're going to go across the river on the bridge. Oh dear. Drip's sister stepped onto the bridge, but then began to frown, for there in front of them stood Drip, who yelled, "Look out! Look down!" And they looked into the water, and they each let out a yelp, and one cried, "Water monsters!" and the other one cried, "Help!" Oh no. Then Mother scolded, "Nonsense," and she joined them on the tree. Then she looked into the water and exclaimed, "Good gracious me!" The three of them stood trembling, and Dad said, "Get a grip. You're all as drippy as Tyrannosaurus Drip." He strode onto the bridge and scoffed, "I bet there's nothing there." Then he looked into the water and he jumped into the air. And how the duckbills hooted when he landed with a crash, and the tree bridge broke, and 4 Tyrannosauruses went splash. Oh goodness, they're all in the water. And spluttering and clinging to the branches of the tree, they went whooshing down a waterfall and all the way to sea. And the duckbills hooted happily. They hooted hip hip hooray for the heroic one and only Duckbill Drip. The end. Now I actually think I really enjoyed that story. I'm going to give that story a rating. So earlier, you can do the same at home. I would like you to make some little stars, okay? Now mine aren't very decorative because I haven't got much at home, but you might have more than me. You can colour them in, you could put glitter on them, you could paint them, whatever you like. But I would like you to have about 5 stars, and you're going to give your book a rating out of 5. So for me, I liked the rhyming in the book, I liked the pictures, and I found the story quite funny. Because at the beginning, I felt really sorry for Tyrannosaurus Drip, but in the end, he was happy, wasn't he? So it was a happy ending. I thought the story was quite enjoyable. Okay, so my rating for this book, I'm going to give it 1, 2, 3 stars. Can you see that? So my Tyrannosaurus Drip book, I'm going to give 3 stars. Now tomorrow we're going to have a different book, and I'm going to do the same. I'm going to do my rating. But I would like to see you reading a book at home that's new to you, and I would like you to see you doing a rating with your stars. Send me your pictures, send me your videos. I'd like to give out lots of dojo points, and I will see you this time tomorrow for another story. Thank you. Bye.